My beloved brothers and sisters, when the days of sacrifice approach, many homes become busy with preparation, selecting animals, planning distribution, organizing everything beautifully. But in the middle of all this activity, there is one question we often overlook. In whose name is this sacrifice truly being done? Let's remind ourselves, Qurbani is not about culture, not about display, not about tradition alone. It is an act of worship. And every act of worship begins with one thing: sincerity. If the intention is not correct, the entire act loses its value. The sacrifice is not in your name nor in mine. It is in the name of Allah alone. When the knife is placed, the words we utter remind us clearly this is for the one who gave us everything. Not for status, not for recognition, not even for emotional attachment, but purely for Him. Now within a household, a common question arises: who should give the Qurbani? The beauty of our faith is its simplicity. If one person negative, usually the head of the household, offers a sacrifice with the intention that it is on behalf of the entire family, it is accepted for all. Imagine the mercy of Allah: one act, shared reward; one sacrifice, multiplied blessings. But here is something deeper to reflect on. It's not just about who pays or whose name is mentioned. It's about the heart behind it. If a family comes together united in intention, remembering Allah, teaching their children the meaning behind it, that home becomes filled with barakah. Sadly, sometimes we turn this act into competition. Who bought the bigger animal? Who spent more money? Who did more sacrifices? My brothers and sisters, that is not the spirit of Qurbani. The animal does not reach Allah, your sincerity does. What Allah wants from you is not the meat, not the blood, but the consciousness, the awareness, the humility in your heart. That moment when you say, "Oh Allah, just as Ibrahim A.S. was ready to sacrifice what he loved most, I am also ready to submit to you." So when you perform Qurbani at home, don't just ask, whose name is it under? Ask, is my heart truly connected to Allah? Because at the end of the day, it's not about the name written on paper, it's about the name remembered in your heart. May Allah accept our sacrifices, purify our intentions, and make us among those who understand the true meaning of submission. Ameen. Sincerity is the soul of every act of worship, and when it comes to Qurbani, it becomes even more essential. A person may spend a large amount of money, choose the healthiest animal, and follow every outward requirement perfectly, but if the intention behind it is not purely for Allah, then the essence of the act is missing. This is something we need to remind ourselves of constantly, because intentions can quietly change without us even realizing it. Sometimes what begins as an act for Allah slowly becomes influenced by what people will say, how it will look, or how it compares to others around us. When you prepare for Qurbani, pause for a moment and ask yourself a simple but powerful question: why am I doing this? If the answer is anything other than seeking the pleasure of Allah, then it is time to correct it. The beauty of intention is that it can be fixed instantly. Even if you had mixed feelings at the start, you can turn your heart back to Allah and say, "Oh Allah, this is for you alone." That sincerity transforms an ordinary action into something great in the sight of Allah. Think about the legacy of Prophet Ibrahim A.S. When he was commanded to sacrifice his beloved son, there was no audience, no social expectation, no pressure from people. It was purely a command from Allah, and his response was complete submission. That is the spirit we are meant to revive every year. Qurbani is not just about commemorating an event, it is about reviving that same sincerity within ourselves. It is about saying, "Oh Allah, I am willing to give up what I love for your sake." In our daily lives, we often struggle with distractions and influences. Social media, community expectations, family comparisons, all of these can slowly creep into our intentions. You might find yourself thinking, what will people say if I don't do it this way? Or others are doing more, maybe I should do the same. These thoughts can shift the focus away from Allah to people. And the moment that happens, the purity of the act begins to fade. Sincerity requires effort. It is not just a feeling, it is something you actively protect. Before purchasing the animal, renew your intention. While arranging the sacrifice, renew it again. Even at the moment of sacrifice, remind yourself once more, this is for Allah. This constant renewal keeps your heart aligned with the purpose of the act. Another powerful way to build sincerity is to keep your good deeds as private as possible. There is something special about actions that are known only to you and Allah. Even if Qurbani is a visible act, your intention does not have to be. You do not need to announce it, display it, or seek acknowledgement for it. The less you seek from people, the more you gain from Allah. Also remember that Allah does not measure your sacrifice the way people do. People look at size, cost, and appearance. Allah looks at the Arabic Alif, Arabic Lam, Arabic Pa, the heart. A smaller sacrifice done with pure sincerity can outweigh a larger one done for show. This should comfort us and also challenge us. It reminds us that the real work is internal, not external. At the end of the day, sincerity is what gives life to your Qurbani. Without it, the act becomes a routine. With it, the act becomes a means of Arabic kaf, Arabic rat, Arabic ba, a means of drawing closer to Allah. So guard your intention carefully, nurture it, and keep bringing it back to Allah, because that is where the true value of your sacrifice lies. At the time of Qurbani, one of the most important reminders we must hold firmly in our hearts is that the sacrifice is done in the name of Allah alone, not in the name of any individual. This may sound simple, but in practice it is something that can easily become blurred if we are not careful. People often say, this is my Qurbani, or this is on behalf of so-and-so. And while there is a valid place for intention on behalf of family members, the act itself must remain purely dedicated to Allah. When the moment of sacrifice comes, the words that are recited are not casual or symbolic. Saying Bismillah Allahu Akbar is a powerful declaration. It is a reminder that life belongs to Allah, that sustenance comes from Him, and that we are returning a portion of what He has given us back to Him in obedience. These words center the entire act around Allah, removing the focus from human ownership or identity. It is not about attaching a person's name to the animal, it is about attaching your heart to your Creator. We need to be careful not to turn Qurbani into something that resembles a personal dedication in the way. People sometimes dedicate actions to others in worldly matters. In Islam, acts of worship are not performed in the name of people. You may intend the reward for your family, you may include them in your Arabiktal, Arabiktan, 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 AAT itself remains solely for Allah. This distinction protects the purity of worship and keeps our connection direct with our Creator. Consider how easily culture can influence our understanding. In some homes there is a strong emphasis on dividing sacrifices by individual names, almost as if each person must have their own label attached to it. While there is flexibility in how intentions are made, we should not lose sight of the Arabic alif, Arabic lam, the foundation. The sacrifice is a form of Arabikin, Arabic ba, Arabic alif, Arabic tal, Arabic tal, Arabic tal, Arabic ta marbuta, and all acts of Arabic tal, Arabic tal, Arabic tal, Arabic tal, Arabic tal, Arabic ta marbuta must be for Allah alone. Once we begin to emphasize names and ownership too much, the focus shifts away from submission and toward personal association. There is also a deeper spiritual wisdom in this. When you remove your name from the center of the act, it humbles you. It reminds you that you are not the Arabic mim, Arabic et, Arabic wa, Arabic rat, the center of this Arabic ten, Arabic ba, Arabic alif, Arabic dal, Arabic letter 6C1. You are simply a servant fulfilling a command. The animal you are sacrificing was created by Allah, sustained by Allah, and ultimately belongs to Allah. You are only acting as a means to carry out His instruction. At the same time, Islam beautifully allows you to share reward with others through your intention. A person can make Qurbani and intend that its reward reaches their spouse, their children, even those who have passed away. This is from the mercy of Allah, but notice the balance. The sacrifice is still in the name of Allah, while the reward can be shared with His permission. This keeps the act pure while allowing generosity in reward. Another important point to reflect on is how this principle protects us from subtle forms of showing off. If the sacrifice is truly for Allah, then there is no need to announce whose it is, no need to compare, no need to compete. The moment we begin to highlight names and attach pride to them, we risk losing the essence of humility that Qurbani is meant to teach us. So when you stand at the time of sacrifice, bring your focus back to its core. Remind yourself that this act is not a dedication to any person, not even to yourself. It is a declaration of your submission to Allah. It is your way of saying, "Oh Allah, everything I have comes from you and I am willing to give for your sake alone." This understanding brings clarity, sincerity and depth to your Qurbani. It transforms it from a routine practice into a meaningful act of worship, rooted in Tawheed, centered entirely on Allah, and free from distractions that take away from its true purpose. In many homes, a common question arises as the days of Qurbani approach. Who exactly should offer the sacrifice? The answer in its simplicity reflects the ease and mercy within our Arabic dal, Arabikiyat, Arabic noon. It is permissible and often sufficient for one person, typically the head of the household, to perform a single Qurbani with the intention that it covers the entire family. This is not a limitation, but rather a beautiful facilitation that brings both unity and reward into the home. When the head of the household takes on this responsibility, it is not merely a financial role. It is a spiritual leadership. It is a moment where that individual stands as a representative of the family, making an intention not just for themselves, but for everyone under their care. This intention carries weight because in Islam, intentions are powerful. A single act, when done sincerely, can extend its reward far beyond the individual who performs it. This does not mean that other family members are excluded or disconnected from the act. On the contrary, they are very much part of it. When the intention is made to include the entire household, every member shares in the reward by the permission of Allah. Imagine the mercy in that one sacrifice, yet multiple hearts connected to it. It encourages a sense of togetherness, reminding the family that worship is not always an individual journey. Sometimes it is something you experience collectively. At the same time, if individuals within the household have the means and wish to offer their own separate Qurbani, that is also permissible and can be a source of additional reward, but it should never become a burden or a source of pressure. The Arabic dal, Arabic heat, Arabic noon does not demand hardship where ease has been provided. If one Qurbani fulfills the requirement for the household, then that is enough. Anything beyond that should come from willingness, not from expectation or social comparison. There is also an important lesson here about responsibility. The one who undertakes the Qurbani on behalf of the family should approach it with care and consciousness. It is not just about arranging the animal or completing a ritual, it is about ensuring that the act is done correctly, ethically, and with sincerity. It is about teaching the family what this act represents. The obedience of Ibrahim, as the submission to Allah and the willingness to sacrifice for His sake. Involving the family in the process can strengthen this understanding. Even if one person is officially offering the Qurbani, others can participate by learning, observing, and reflecting. Children especially benefit greatly from this. When they see that the Qurbani is not just a task handled by one person but a meaningful act shared by all, it shapes their understanding of worship from a young age. It is also important to avoid turning this into a matter of pride or control. Being the one who performs the Qurbani does not place someone above others. It is a responsibility, not a status. The reward comes from sincerity and humility, not from being seen as the provider or the one in charge. Keeping this mindset helps maintain harmony within the home and ensures that the act remains focused on Allah. This arrangement also reflects the practicality of Islam. Not every family member may be in a position to perform their own Qurbani, whether due to financial reasons or other circumstances. Allowing one sacrifice to represent the household removes unnecessary hardship and keeps the focus on what truly matters: obedience to Allah and sincerity in worship. So when the head of the household steps forward to perform the Qurbani, it should be seen as an act that gathers the family together under one intention. It is a moment of unity where everyone shares in the reward and reflects on the meaning behind the sacrifice. This understanding transforms the act from something individual into something collective, strengthening both faith and family bonds in the process. One of the most beautiful aspects of Qurbani within a home is the opportunity it creates to bring the entire family together in a shared act of worship. When family members are included in the intention, it is not just about distributing reward, it is about nurturing a collective a shared spiritual experience that strengthens bonds and deepens understanding. In a world where people often live busy, separate lives under the same roof, moments like these carry a special kind of barakah. When a family gathers around the act of Qurbani, whether through discussion, preparation, or simply being present, it becomes more than a ritual. It becomes a living lesson. Children begin to ask questions. Why do we do this? What does it mean? And in answering those questions, you are not only educating them, you are planting seeds of faith that can remain with them for a lifetime. They start to see that Islam is not just something spoken about, it is something lived, practiced, and shared. Including family members also builds a sense of belonging. When a person knows that they are part of an act of worship, even if they are not the one financially contributing, it creates a connection to that deed. A young child who watches the Qurbani with understanding, a spouse who supports the preparation, an elder who makes do, each of them is connected to the act in a meaningful way. This shared involvement fosters unity, reminding everyone that they are part of something greater than themselves. It is important, however, that this inclusion is done with the right spirit. It should not feel like a formality or a box to tick. It should be intentional. Speak to your family about the significance of Qurbani before the day arrives. Remind them of the story of sacrifice, of obedience, of trust in Allah. Let the atmosphere in the home reflect anticipation not just for the meat but for the Arabic teen, Arabic pa, Arabic caliph, Arabic tal, Arabic letter 6C1 itself. When hearts are prepared, the act becomes more impactful. There is also a deep wisdom in sharing reward. In Islam, generosity is not limited to wealth, it extends to intentions. When you make Qurbani and include your family in that intention, you are essentially saying, "Oh Allah, let this Arabaklif reach them as well." This builds a culture of giving within the home, not just giving to others outside, but giving spiritually to those closest to you. It strengthens relationships because acts done for the sake of Allah carry a different kind of sincerity and purity. At the same time, inclusion helps remove feelings of separation or inequality. In some families, not everyone has the same financial means. If Qurbani were treated as an individual obligation in a rigid sense, it could create discomfort or even embarrassment for those who are unable to participate independently. But by including everyone under one intention, the focus shifts from individual capacity to collective devotion. It reminds the family that in the sight of Allah, what matters most is the sincerity of the heart, not the size of the contribution. Another powerful outcome of this shared experience is the strengthening of family identity around faith. A home that regularly engages in acts of worship together builds a strong foundation. It becomes a place where remembrance of Allah is normal, where Arabic teen, Arabic pa, Arabic talaif, Arabic talay, Arabic latar 6C1 is valued, and where spiritual growth is encouraged. Qurbani, when approached in this way, becomes one of those anchor moments that reinforce that identity year after year. Even after the sacrifice is completed, the sense of togetherness can continue through distribution. Sharing the meat, deciding how much goes to those in need, involving family members in giving, all of this reinforces the values of compassion and generosity. It teaches that Qurbani is not only about sacrifice, but also about caring for others and recognizing the blessings we have been given. So when you include your family in Qurbani, you are not just increasing reward, you are building unity, teaching faith, and creating memories rooted in Arabic teen, Arabic ba, Arabic talif, Arabic talif, Arabic talif, Arabic talif, Arabic talif XC1. It transforms the act into something that touches every heart in the home, making it not just a personal offering, but a shared journey toward Allah. One of the quiet dangers that can creep into acts of worship is the desire to be seen, to be noticed, or to be praised. Qurbani, despite being such a sacred act, is not immune to this. In fact, because it is visible and often discussed within communities, it can easily become an area where comparison and competition begin to grow. This is something we must be very careful about, because it can slowly strip away the sincerity that gives the act its true value. You might find people asking questions like, how many animals did you sacrifice, or what type did you choose? On the surface, these may seem like harmless conversations, but if we are not mindful, they can turn into subtle forms of showing off. A person may begin to feel proud of doing more or embarrassed for doing less. This is not what Qurbani is meant to produce in our hearts. It is meant to humble us, not elevate us in the eyes of others. The problem with competition in acts of worship is that it shifts the focus from Allah to people. Instead of asking, is Allah pleased with me? A person begins to think, what will others think of me? And once that shift happens, the act loses its Arabikrat, Arabikwa, Arabikit. Worship is no longer about submission, it becomes about recognition. This is a very delicate line, and it requires constant self-awareness to stay on the right side of it. There is nothing wrong with doing more if it comes from a place of sincerity. If Allah has blessed someone with wealth and they choose to offer multiple Qurbanis purely for His sake, that is something beautiful. But the moment that intention is mixed with pride, comparison, or a desire to impress, the purity begins to fade. What was meant to be a Arabic kaf, Arabic rat, Arabic ba to Allah can quietly turn into a display for Arabic alif, Arabic leaf, Arabic sin. We also need to be mindful of how we speak about our Arabic teen, Arabic ba, Arabic teen, Arabic ba, Arabic teen, Arabic ba, Arabic teen, Arabic litar 6C1. Sometimes even without intending to show off, we may mention our actions in a way that draws attention. It is always safer to keep such matters as private as possible. The less people know about your Arabic teen, Arabic ba, Arabic tal, Arabic letter 6C1, the more secure it is from being affected by Riyah. The desire to be seen, your connection with Allah does not need an audience. Another important aspect is how we react to others. If someone does more than you, there should be no jealousy. And if someone does less, there should be no judgment. Everyone's circumstances are different, and Allah has not placed the same level of responsibility on every individual. Looking down on someone for doing less, or feeling superior because you have done more, goes against the very humility that Qurbani is meant to teach. In fact, sometimes a smaller act done with sincerity can be far greater in the sight of Allah than a larger one done for show. This should make us reflect deeply. It means that the real Arabic meme, Arabikit, Arabikit, Arabikalif, Arabikrat, the true measure, is not what people see, but what Allah knows about your heart. And that is something no one else has access to. Qurbani is also a time when social pressure can become strong. You may feel pushed to match what others are doing, even if it is beyond your means. This is not what Islam teaches. Allah does not burden a soul beyond its capacity. If you fulfill what is required of you sincerely, that is enough. There is no need to stretch yourself just to keep up appearances. True Arabic teen, Arabic ba, Arabic talef, Arabic talef, Arabic talef, Arabic talef XC1 is free from such pressures. Protecting your intention requires effort. It means constantly checking your heart, asking yourself why you are doing what you are doing. It means being honest with yourself when you feel that desire for recognition creeping in. And it means consciously redirecting your focus back to Allah, reminding yourself that His approval is the only one that truly matters. When you remove comparison and competition from Qurbani, what remains is something pure and peaceful. It becomes a personal act of devotion, a quiet offering between you and your Creator. And that is where its true beauty lies. When we think about Qurbani, it is very easy to focus on the physical aspect, the animal, the process, the distribution of meat. These are all important parts of the act, but they are not the essence of it. The real value of Qurbani lies much deeper than what is visible. It lies in the spirit behind it, the sincerity within it, and the level of submission it reflects in your heart. Without that spirit, the act risks becoming a routine that is performed outwardly but felt very little inwardly. Allah makes it clear that neither the meat nor the blood of the sacrifice reaches Him. What reaches Him is your taqwa, your consciousness of Him, your awareness, your sincerity. This should shift the entire way we view Qurbani. It is not about how big the animal is, how expensive it was, or how perfectly everything was organized. All of that may look impressive to Arabakalif, Arabaklem, Arabaknun, Arabakalif, Arabaksin, but it is the unseen condition of your heart that determines its acceptance. Think about it this way. Two people may perform Qurbani in exactly the same way outwardly. They may choose similar animals, follow the same procedure, and distribute the meat in similar portions. To an observer, both acts look identical. But in the sight of Allah, they can be completely different. One may be filled with humility, gratitude, and sincerity, while the other may be influenced by habit, pressure, or even pride. The difference between the two is not in what is seen, but in what is felt. This is why the spirit of Qurbani matters so much. It is meant to revive a sense of submission within you. It is meant to remind you of the willingness of Ibrahim, A.S., to sacrifice what was most beloved to him for the sake of Allah. That level of obedience is not something that can be measured by an animal alone. It is something that must be reflected in your own life. What are you willing to give up for Allah? What habits, desires, or attachments are you ready to sacrifice? If Qurbani does not lead you to ask these questions, then you are only experiencing its outer layer. The true purpose is to transform you, even if only slightly, into someone more conscious of Allah. It is an opportunity to renew your commitment to strengthen your relationship with Him and to remind yourself that everything you have is ultimately from Him. Another important part of this spirit is gratitude. When you are able to perform Qurbani, it means Allah has provided you with the means to do so. That in itself is a blessing. Instead of focusing on the act as a task to be completed, view it as an opportunity that not everyone is given. This mindset fills your heart with appreciation and makes the act more meaningful. It is also about compassion and generosity. The distribution of meat is not just a logistical step, it is a chance to care for others, especially those who may not have the same blessings. When you give from your Qurbani, do it with a willing heart, do it with the intention of spreading Arubakalif, Arubakalif, Arubakat, 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 and easing the lives of others. This adds another layer of sincerity to your act. We must also be careful not to reduce Qurbani to a cultural routine. In some places it becomes something that is done because it's that time of the year without much thought or reflection. When that happens, the act loses its depth. Bringing back the spirit means being mindful, being present in the moment, and connecting your heart to what you are doing. Even small changes in how you approach Qurbani can make a big difference. Taking a moment to make sincere dua before the sacrifice, reflecting on its meaning, involving your heart rather than just your hands. All of this brings life back into the act. It turns it from a formality into a meaningful act of worship. At the end of the day, the animal is only a means. The real goal is what it does to your heart. If it increases your taqwa, strengthens your sincerity and brings you closer to Allah, then you have truly understood the spirit of Qurbani. And that is far more valuable than anything that can be measured or seen. Qurbani is far more than a yearly ritual or a communal tradition. It is a powerful act of worship that brings us back to the core meaning of submission to Allah. When we reflect on it deeply, we realize that every aspect of it is designed to purify our hearts, correct our intentions, and strengthen our connection with our Creator. It is not about name, status, or appearance, but about sincerity, humility, and obedience. The sacrifice is done in the name of Allah alone, reminding us that everything we have belongs to Him. Within our homes, the beauty of this act is that it can be shared in intention, bringing families together under one purpose and one reward. It teaches responsibility, unity, and gratitude while also protecting us from the burdens of unnecessary competition or comparison. At the same time, we are reminded to guard our intentions carefully. Qurbani is not a field for showing off or seeking recognition. It is a private conversation between the servant and the Lord of all creation. The more we protect it from pride and ego, the more valuable it becomes in the sight of Allah. Ultimately, what matters most is not the size of the sacrifice, but the state of the heart behind it. Allah does not look at what reaches the ground, He looks at what rises from the heart. If Qurbani leads us to greater taqwa, deeper gratitude, and stronger sincerity, then it has achieved its true purpose. So as these blessed days arrive, let us approach Qurbani with renewed faith, purified intentions, and a humble heart. Let us remember that it is not about what we give alone, but about who we are becoming in the process. May Allah accept from all of us, purify our intentions, and make our sacrifices a means of drawing closer to Him. Ameen.